صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله، صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة يا مظلوم يا شهيد يا غريب كربلاء، يا ليتنا يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. A second for the love of Imams Al-Hassan wal-Hussein. A third for the love of Fatima al-Zahra with your loudest voices. One of the most predominant features from the acts of worship in Islam is the ritual purification, at-tahara. We see that in Islam we need ritual purification to start our salah. Without tahara, you may not enter the salah. We need ritual purification for tawaf. We cannot start a tawaf without tahara. In order to touch the words of the Quran, you need tahara. In order to enter the masjid, you need ritual purification, the greater ritual purification, not the lesser, as we shall discuss. Thus, many of the laws in Islam depend on, many of the acts of worship in Islam depend on ritual purification. the above verse, the previous verse that we just recited, verse 6 of Surah Al-Ma'idah, addresses ritual purification, and that it's an act of worship. However, what we notice is that ritual purification is not new in Islam. Islam is not the first religion that brought ritual purification through wudu, ghusl, and tayammum. We see other religions that also have ritual purification. For example, in Judaism, there's something called washing with mikhev or mikveh. This is a ritual cleansing in Judaism in which there's a water, a pond of water, or a what have you, and Jews have to immerse in this water for ritual purity. And in Hebrew they even call it tahara, or with a T, tahara. This is in Judaism. You cannot attain ritual purity without the sort of washing or the sort of ghusl, so to speak. And in Judaism, a female that finishes her menstrual cycle, after her menstrual cycle, and after she gives childbirth, she gives birth to a child, she has to perform this ritual washing, this ritual purification, this mahdib. Otherwise her husband cannot come close to her. Thus, if a person converts into Judaism, has to perform this ritual washing, this ritual purification. Thus, we see that this immersion into water, this washing with water, ritual purification, exists in Judaism before it came into Islam. In Christianity, they have something called baptism, which is a form of admission into Christianity or to the Christian church. When a child is born, an infant, that child is baptized. If a person converts into Christianity, he needs to be baptized. And a person's salvation, according to Christianity, a person's salvation depends on baptism, this ritual washing in sacred water. Thus, ritual purification exists in Judaism, exists in Christianity, it exists in Hinduism, and it exists in many other religions. It is not something new that Islam brought. When we study this verse 6 of Surah Al-Ma'idah, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. Fuqaha and jurists from both schools of thought, from Sunni and Shia schools of thought, have various understandings of this verse. That is why our Sunni brothers and sisters have their own wudu, their own way of wudu, and we have our own way of wudu. Of course, we have commonalities and similarities, and we also have our differences. Why? Because of how we read this verse and how we understand this verse. And this is one of the points that we'd like to study and look at tonight briefly. Why our Sunni brothers and sisters perform their wudu in a special way, and why do we perform our wudu in another way? And it all comes back to this verse. Also, is the role of tahara and ritual purification, is it only for cleanliness? There are some that say wudu, ghusl and tayammum were legislated for cleanliness. If this is the case, then today We don't have an issue with cleanliness. If 14 centuries ago people had an issue with showering and cleaning themselves every day because of lack of water, showers were not available, clean water was not available. Well, today clean water is available everywhere. If this was the reason behind the legislation of ritual purification, then today we don't need wudu, some might say. Today we don't need ghusl or tayammum. If cleanliness is the reason. We shall discuss this point as well. Another point is that, is ritual purification, is it just a cleansing of the body, or does it have a spiritual effect as well? Does wudu have a spiritual effect on us? Does ghusl have a spiritual effect on us? And why is it that it is recommended to always be on tahara and to have wudu? These points and some others we shall talk about tonight, inshaAllah, in the next couple of minutes. وصلوا على محمد وآل محمد. When we look at the wudu of the followers of Ahlul Bayt, and we compare it to the wudu of our Sunni brothers and sisters, we see that we have certain things in common, and we have our differences. For example, we all wash our hands in the beginning of the wudu, and we wash our faces. However, when it comes to washing the hands, the right hand and the left hand, followers of Ahlul Bayt begin washing from their elbows up to their fingers, the tips of their fingers. While our Sunni brothers and sisters, they do the opposite. They begin with their fingertips and they end at their elbows. Why? We shall discuss this. When it comes to wiping our heads, followers of Ahlul Bayt wipe a portion of their head, while our Sunni brothers and sisters wipe their entire head, including the ears. When it comes to the feet, followers of Ahlul Bayt, they wipe a portion of their feet, while our Sunni brothers and sisters, they wipe their feet. Why are they different? We shall examine this verse tonight, and we shall see which school of thought is following the verse accurately. And we do not need to refer to any hadith. We don't need to summon any hadith from Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. I believe that this verse is enough to prove that the followers of Ahlul Bayt are performing the wudu accurately and in accordance to the Quran. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The verse says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, O you who believe, إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ, if you wake up and you wish to pray, then this is what you do. فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ, wash your faces. We all agree on this. There is no dispute. Washing our face, there is no dispute. The dispute is here. اغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ, and your hands, إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ, إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. Wash your hands to your elbows. Sunni brothers and sisters, they're fuqaha, they say, see, the Quran is saying, wash your hands to your elbows. That means up to your elbows. That means, where do you start? With your fingers. Where do you end? Your elbows. Because it says, wash your hands to your elbows. That means up to your elbows. That means you begin with the hand, you end at the elbow. It's like saying in Arabic, Sirtu min al-Basra ila al-Kufa. I drove from Basra to Kufa. That means, where did you start from? Basra. And where did you end? Kufa. Ila al-Kufa. That means the end is Kufa. So the verse says, وَاغْسُلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. That means you have to end at your elbow. That means you wash like this. You begin from your fingertips and you end at your elbows. This is what our Sunni brothers and sisters say. When we come to the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt, when we come to our Imams, we understand the verse differently. The verse is not trying to tell us how to wash. where to start and where to end. The verse is trying to tell us what to wash. There's a difference between how and what. They say the verse is telling us how to wash. We say the verse is telling us what to wash. The verse is telling us wash your hands, which is usually the palms and this portion, and the elbows. Include the elbows. But you might say the verse is saying ila al-marafiq, up to. We say ila has two meanings. Ila, one of the meanings of ila is up to. And this is what our Sunni brothers and sisters say. Ila also has another meaning. It means with. And this is used in the Arabic language. To say ila, and instead of meaning up to, you mean with. For example, there's a verse in the Quran that speaks to those who look after orphans and says don't eat their money along with your money, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَهُمْ إِلَىٰ أَمْوَالِكُمْ. Don't eat their money, don't use their money with your money. Don't use their money. Here, the word ila is brought and it's meant as with, not to. So here it's the same thing. وَاغْسُلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. That means with your elbows, not up to your elbows. Is everyone following me? This is a very important point. If you are asked when you go to Hajj or at school or you stop at a masjid and one of our Sunni brothers and sisters asks you, why do you perform your wudu? Why do you wash down and not up? This is the answer. That ila in this verse, it means with, not to. Not to your elbows, but with your elbows. You wash your hands with your elbows. The entire hand with the elbows. So the verse is not telling us how to perform wudu. It's telling us what to wash, not how to wash. You might ask me then how do we wash? If the verse is only telling us what to wash, then how is it that we wash? How we wash is logical. How we wash is logical. When we wash up to down and not down up. When you take a shower, do you begin washing your feet and then you wash your head, or do you wash your head first and then you go down? Logically, you start up and you go down. You start from the elbows and you go down. This is logical. It's commonsensical. The Quran doesn't need to tell us how. It just needs to tell us where to wash. When you wash your car, do you start with the tires first and then you go up? When you paint your house, do you start from the bottom and then you go up, or do you start from the top and you come down? It's logical. Whenever we start something, we start from the top and we come down. When you wash your hands, you start from the top and you come down. This is common sense. This is the first point of disagreement. We have 3 points of disagreement. The first point of disagreement is regarding the hand. The second point of disagreement, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And I hope that everyone is following, because when you're asked, you have to have an answer. When you don't have an answer, and you say, I don't know why I wash like this, then you don't only make yourself look bad, but you make who also look bad? Your school of thought. So have your answer ready. This is the first point. Second point. We come to the second section of the verse. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. The Quran says, wipe your heads. Followers of Ahlul Bayt wipe a portion of their head. Our Sunni brothers and sisters wipe their entire head. Who's doing it correctly? You see, the verse says, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. There's a ba. For those that know Arabic and understand Arabic, the Quran doesn't say, وَامْسَحُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ. Wipe your heads. The Quran says, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. It means wipe a portion of your head. This ba, in Arabic language, it's called ba at-tab'id, meaning ba'd al-ras, a portion of your head, not your entire head. If the verse said, وَامْسَحُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ, wipe your heads, we would have wiped the entire head. But the verse doesn't say, وَامْسَحُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ. The verse says, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. Wipe a portion of your head. That is why we wipe a portion of our heads. It's only one letter. One letter. This ba. It makes a whole world of a difference. Whether you wipe your entire head, including your ears, or you wipe a portion of your head. Ba. Biru'usikum. This is the second point. The third point of disagreement is our feet. Do we wipe our feet or do we wash our feet? Followers of Ahlul Bayt, they wipe their feet. Our Sunni brothers and sisters, they wash their feet. Let's read the verse. And let's see, what does the verse say? Do we wipe or wash? And there's a big difference. You can't make a mistake. The verse says, see, this verse is divided into two sections. I want the brothers and sisters to pay attention. It's an accurate point. You don't want to miss it. The verse says, wash your faces and your hands with your elbows. This is the first section. The second section says, and wipe a portion of your heads and your feet. Wash your faces and your hands with your elbows. Wipe a portion of your heads with your feet. Your feet, do you wash or do you wipe? What is the verse saying? The verse is saying wipe. The verse is saying wipe. Our Sunni brothers and sisters, they say no. We bring back the feet to the first verb, not to the second verb. The first verb is wash. The second verb is wipe. وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ, it goes back to وَغْسِلُوا. It doesn't go back to وَامْسَحُوا. Now I ask you a question. If there are two verbs in a sentence, and then there's a subject, the subject goes back to the closest verb or to the farthest verb? Question. To the closest or to the farthest? To the closest. Why go back to the farthest verb when you have a closer verb? This is not just in the Arabic language, in any language. If you mention two verbs and then a subject, the subject comes back to the closest verb, not to the farthest verb. Let me give you an example, but pay attention to the example. You tell someone, today I saw Ali and Ja'far, and I had lunch with Mustafa and Ahmed. Ahmed, did you have lunch with him or did you see him? Let me repeat the example, this time pay attention. I saw Ali and Ja'far, and I had lunch with Mustafa and Ahmed. Ahmed, did you have lunch with him or did you see him? You had lunch with him. Because this is the closest verb. This is the closest verb. No one would think that Ahmed goes back to you saw him. Well, if you saw him, you would have brought the subject before this verb. Not after. When you mention another verb, the following subjects goes back to that verb. To the closest verb. Some people are looking at me and they're saying, what are you talking about? Some people look confused. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It's very clear. Think about it. Tonight when you go back, read the verse and you will see what I'm talking about. وَاغْسُلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. Wash your hands, wash your faces and your hands with your elbows. And then وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. And wipe a portion of your heads and your feet up to your ankles. It's very clear. Anyone who understands Arabic and has an understanding of the Arabic language and pays attention to the verse, they cannot go wrong. It's very clear. We don't need to mention any hadith from Sahih al-Bukhari or Sahih Muslim or Sunan al-Tirmidhi or Sunan Ibn Majah or Ibn Dawud. None of this. The verse is clear on its own. And there are some of our Sunni brothers and sisters that even wipe over their shoes. During wudu, they wipe over their shoes. While the verse is very clear. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ. Wipe your feet. Wipe your feet. And I don't know why, when it comes to their shoes, they wipe, they don't wash. Well, if you wash your feet, wash your shoes as well. How come when it comes to your shoes, you wipe it, you don't wash it? But you don't see them washing their shoes, they only wipe their shoes. The verse is very clear. We don't need any hadith. It's very, very clear. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We come to the second point, and that is, it is highly recommended to always have wudu and to be on the state of tahara. We have many ahadith and many verses that emphasize being on the state of tahara all the time, as much as possible. Of course, as much as possible. إن الله يحب التوابين ويحب المتطهرين. He likes those who repent, and He likes those who are in a state of tahara. Imam Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salam, in his biography, they say that he would perform Salat al-Fajr with the wudu of Salat al-Isha. With the wudu of Salat al-Isha. That means, number one, he was continuously on a state of tahara. And number two, it means that he didn't sleep all night. Hujr ibn Adi, this respected Sahabi, whom a couple of months ago, they attacked in April, I believe, in April or May, they attacked his shrine in Adra, in Damascus. Terrorists and Al-Qaeda and Wahhabis, they attacked his shrine and they destroyed his grave, and they even dug his grave. You know, previously we had heard of destroying shrines. We had heard of leveling the graves, but we had never heard of digging a person's grave. This is new. This is Wahhabism 2013. We had never heard of this before. Digging someone's grave. And who? A Sahabi. They claim to have respect for the Sahaba and to follow the Sahaba. Isn't Hujr ibn Adi a Sahabi? They mention in their sources, I gave a lecture on this during the month of Ramadan, the biography of Hujr ibn Adi. It's found on YouTube. They mention in their own sources that Hujr was a Sahabi. While some satellite channels, when this incident occurred, like Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya, they would say At-Tabi'i, Hujr ibn Adi, meaning second generation Muslim, not a Sahabi. This is a lie. They knew he's a Sahabi. But to make him not so important, to not make the ones who attacked his grave, to not make them look like barbarians, they changed him from a Sahabi to a Tabi'i. Even though they mention in their books that Hujr ibn Adi accepted Islam at the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They mention in the qualities of Hujr ibn Adi, Ma ahdatha illa tawadda. Whenever he lost his wudu, he would perform wudu. All the time. Ma ahdatha illa tawadda. Whenever he would break his wudu, he would perform wudu. وَمَا تَوَضَّأَ إِلَّا صَلَّى. And whenever he would perform wudu, he would pray 2 units. Whenever he would perform wudu, he would pray 2 units. This was Hujr ibn Adi. A person always on wudu, always on a state of tahara. And whenever he performed wudu, he would pray. And prayer was the last thing that he did in this life. When they brought him to kill him along with his children, along with 2 of his sons, they told him to curse Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said, I will never curse Ali ibn Abi Talib. Even though Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam himself says, وَأَمَّا السَّابِ فَسُبُّونِي. If you are asked to curse at me, to swear at me, that's fine. Even though Amir al-Mu'mineen had given them permission to swear at him. Yet he refused. He refused. Before killing him, he said, give me a moment to let me pray. He stood and he prayed. He prolonged his salah. It's his usual salah. They told him, when he finished, they told him, Hujr, are you scared of death? That's why you prolonged your salah? He said, by God, Allah knows that this was the shortest salah of my life. And I purposely cut it short so that you don't say I'm a coward. When they were about to kill him, he said, kill my sons first. He said, Ajib, you want us to kill your sons first? What a coward. He said, no, I'm not a coward. I want you to kill my sons first, because I'm afraid if you kill me and they see me dead, they might curse Ali ibn Abi Talib. And they might be afraid of death. So I want you to kill them first so that I make sure they don't curse Ali ibn Abi Talib. So they killed his sons first, and then they killed him. This was Hujr ibn Adi. Ma ahdatha illa tawadda. Whenever he would break his wudu, he would renew his wudu. Anyway, it is recommended to always be on a state of ritual purification, tahara. Why, my dear friends? Why? Because we have a lot of water? Because we don't have anything else to do? No, because it has a spiritual effect. You see, when you perform wudu, what do we usually associate wudu with? Usually when we do wudu, why do we do wudu? Because we want to pray. We associate wudu with salah. And when we pray, what do we associate salah with? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Communicating with Allah. That means when we perform wudu, we're actually associating it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're about to have a discourse with Allah. We're about to communicate with Allah. Thus, automatically, when we perform wudu, we feel spiritual. We feel different. Compare yourself. Look at yourself when you don't have wudu. And look at yourself when you have wudu. You're not the same person, believe me. You're two different people. When you're on a state of wudu, you feel spiritual. You feel closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You feel you're about to stand in front of Him and speak to Him humbly. It's a different state of mind. When you're on wudu, you feel that shaitan is away from you and angels are closer to you. When you're on wudu, you feel that you cannot sin. When you're on wudu, can you listen to music? I assure you, you can't. You feel there's something wrong. You can't listen to music when you're on wudu. Can you backbite or lie or look at a haram scene or look at the opposite gender in a lustful manner? You can't. Because you feel you're on wudu. You're about to pray. You're about to stand in front of Allah. This wudu, this state of tahara gives you immunity. It's like when you're in the masjid. Usually, when we're at the mosque, we don't backbite. Let us leave, stand outside, we'll start backbiting. We're the same person. But inside the masjid, we feel different. We feel more spiritual. Am I right or am I wrong? Absolutely. Inside the masjid, you won't lie. You go outside, you lie. Because being inside the masjid, it gives you immunity. You feel spiritual. There's some people during the month of Muharram and Safar, they don't listen to music. Because during Muharram and Safar, they feel they can't. How can they listen to music when their grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was slain? How is it possible? But as soon as Safar ends, oh my God. The parties begin and the celebrations begin. All that begins. Why? Because in our mind, during Muharram and Safar, it's wrong. You know, someone said, I wish the entire year was Muharram and Safar. If this was the case, if we were so spiritual, then I wish the entire year was Muharram and Safar. Thus, being on tahara gives us that state of mind. That spiritual immunity. When you're on tahara, you don't want to sin. You feel it's wrong. You feel shaitan is away from you. That is why it's recommended to always be on tahara. Even if you have wudu. Even if you have wudu, it's recommended to go ahead and perform wudu again. The hadith says, Al-wudu'u ala al-wudu'u nurun. Wal-wudu'u ala al-wudu'u nurun ala nur. Wudu is light. And to perform wudu over a wudu is light over light. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Here I must address another problem that some people have. And that is, some people, they perform wudu and then they think that their wudu is wrong. So they go ahead and do another wudu. And then that wudu is wrong. So they go ahead and do a third, fourth, and then before you know it, he's done it 24 wudu 24 times. There's some people like this. And here in America they call it OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. In Arabic we call it wiswas. This is wrong, my dear friends. Wudu is meant to be done once, not 17 times. Ghusl is meant to be done once, not 13 times. There are some people that repeatedly they go and they do wudu because they thinks or she thinks that her wudu was incorrect or her ghusl was incorrect. They go and they repeat it. My dear friends, this is called wiswas, and this is from shaitan. Wiswas is from shaitan. How does shaitan, I said this before, how does shaitan come to religious people? To tell them, go drink, religious people don't drink. Go gamble, go dance, go to a nightclub. Religious people are not interested in these things. Shaitan comes and ruins your ibadah, your worship. How? By telling your wudu is wrong. Go do it over again. And over and over and over and over. This is called OCD. This is obsessive compulsive disorder. If you have this problem, or anyone that you know has this problem, tell them to stop. One wudu is enough. One ghusl is enough. This is not from me. Islam says this. Ahadith say this. La shakka li kathir al-shak. There are some people that repeat their salah 7 times. During salah, all of a sudden, he doesn't know, is he in the second rak'ah or the third? So he does it over. And then in the second salah again, he doesn't know, is he in the third rak'ah or the fourth? And he'll repeat his salah at least 10 times. This is called OCD. You don't need to do this. Your salah, do it once. Your wudu, do it once. Your ghusl, do it once. That's it. There are some people that have this issue with najasa. They consider everything najis. Their sandals, when they come out of the restroom and the kitchen, any child that comes with a wet hand, this is najis, that is najis, the kitchen is najis, the restroom is najis. What is this? This is not Islam. This is not Islamic law. Islam is a simple religion, my dear friends. Islam is an easy religion. Why do we make it harder on ourselves? Why do we make it harder on ourselves? Let's not be like Bani Israel. Bani Israel came to Musa with that famous story of the murder. They came to Musa, they said, what should we do? He said, slaughter a cow. Any cow would have been sufficient. They came in and they said, which kind of cow? He told them, this kind of cow. They asked for more details, more details, more details. They made it hard on themselves. Allah told them, go slaughter any cow for God's sake. Why do we make religion difficult on us? When Islam is simple, when Islam is easy. And when we make it difficult, you know what happens? We draw our youth away from Islam. When the parents are so difficult, this is najis, that is najis, that is najis. Repeat your salah 13 times. Your wudu is batil, your ghusl is... Our kids are going to go crazy. Our kids are going to become atheists. If this is how we treat religion. Religion is easy, my dear friends. Let's not make it difficult. We have so many ahadith that Bani Israel and Jews, they made things difficult for them, so Allah made things difficult for them as well. There's no need. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. May I ask the brothers to pull forward, please, because there are some that are coming in and they're not finding room. Please pull forward. Wa sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Pull forward, please. Pull forward. Send another loud salawat, please. Another point that this verse discusses is not only wudu but ghusl. We also have ghusl in Islam. وَإِن كُنْتُمْ جُنُبًا فَطَّهُرُوا. In Islam, we also have ghusl. But ghusl is for specific reasons. For example, if a person, a man or a woman, on the state of janaba, they have to perform ghusl in order for them to pray, or fast, or go inside Masjid al-Haram, or go inside any masjid rather, to perform tawaf, they need to perform ghusl al-janaba. For the sisters, for ladies, they have three kinds of ghusl. Ghusl al-hayd, ghusl al-istihada, and ghusl al-nifas. A ghusl for after the menstrual cycle, a ghusl after giving the blood that finishes after childbirth, and ghusl al-istihada. And there are two other ghusls. When we have a dead body, we have to wash that body, ghusl mayyit. And we have ghusl massil mayyit, when you touch a dead body. After it becomes cold, and before that body is given ghusl, if you touch that body, you have to perform ghusl massil mayyit. And there are two types of ghusl, and how to perform ghusl. There's ghusl al-tartibi, a ghusl that you start with your head and neck, and then your right side, and then your left side. And we have ghusl al-irtimasi, when you submerge in the water all at once. Submerge your body all at once. This is another type of ghusl. The verse also discusses tayammum. فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. When is it that we perform tayammum? When either there is no water whatsoever, we do not have water at home, and we can't afford buying water, or there is water but it is harmful for us. The doctor has told us not to shower, for example, not to perform wudu. The water is extremely cold, or it's extremely hot, unbearably cold or hot, then you perform tayammum. And this shows that Islam is an easy religion. You can't perform wudu, perform tayammum. You can't perform ghusl, perform tayammum. This shows that Islam is easygoing. Islam doesn't tell you that you have to perform wudu, even if it means you have to catch a flu and become ill. No. Islam says that if wudu is harmful for you, perform tayammum. If ghusl is harmful for you, perform tayammum. This shows that Islam is an easygoing religion. And by the way, the Quran 14 centuries ago told us to perform tayammum with sand. Today they are discovering that sand can be very healthy and helpful sometimes. And that sand can cure a lot of illnesses. And then it's good for the skin. Especially there's some kind of sand that is good for the skin. It keeps the skin young looking, healthy looking. But the Quran said this 14 centuries ago. فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. Some say that tahara, ritual purification, was legislated at a time when the Arab, they didn't have showers at home. Clean water wasn't available. They would wash maybe once every week. They were dirty. They lived in dirty conditions, unhealthy conditions. That is why the Quran says perform wudu and perform ghusl and perform tayammum. However, today, there's showers in every home. There's soap, there's lotion. You have the body shop. You have all kinds of shampoos and body washes. What's the need for wudu and ghusl? Today people take a shower every day. There are some that take 2 showers every day. If ritual purification was legislated for cleanliness, today people are clean. We don't have hygiene issues anymore. Today this problem is solved. Thus, and I've seen some people that say this, thus today we are no longer in need of wudu and ghusl. This is outdated. Is this true? صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. First of all, Islam definitely cares about personal hygiene. Islam definitely cares about cleanliness. Everyone knows the famous hadith, النظافة من الإيمان. Cleanliness is godliness, or cleanliness is from faith. We all know this. Islam promotes cleanliness and personal hygiene. And when we compare Islam to other religions, definitely Islam cared about cleanliness. While in Christianity Christianity did not care about cleanliness. No, on the contrary. Christianity preached not to care about cleanliness. That is why we read about Christian monks that would live on the mountains and wouldn't bathe for several weeks, maybe even several months. We read in history about several monks that would purposely sleep in mud and would purposely sleep in dirt because they felt that this is being humble. Not that they liked being unclean, but they felt that the more unclean they are, the closer they are to God. And being clean meant being materialistic. We read this in Christianity. And even in Europe, we read in history that they didn't pay attention to cleanliness. Weeks would pass by and the citizens of London would not shower. In fact, some historians mention that people in England, people in London, they would wash their hands and their faces on a daily basis. But as for bathing and showering, months would pass by, maybe an entire year would pass by without them bathing. Historians mention that when Queen Victoria moved to Buckingham Palace in the UK, she didn't have a bath. There was no bath at home in the palace. And where did Europeans learn about bathing, or it became a predominant feature in Europe after the Crusades? When they went to Palestine, and when they encountered Muslims, and when they encountered Arab people, they learned about bathing, they learned about showers. And after the Crusades, Europe witnessed an abundance of baths, and it became a custom. Thus, when we compare Islam and Muslims to other civilizations and to other cultures, our religion definitely preaches about cleanliness and to be clean. But is this the reason why ritual purification, wudu and ghusl, was legislated? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Proof of that is that if cleanliness was the reason, we would have wiped the bottom of our feet, not the top of our feet. If cleanliness was the reason, we would have washed our feet, not wiped our feet. Correct? If cleanliness is the reason, after wudu, fuqaha would have said after taking a shower, you don't need wudu. But all fuqaha say that even if you take 70 showers, when you're done, if you want to stand up for salah, you have to perform wudu. Even if you performed a shower, if you didn't perform ghusl, and with the intention of ghusl, you cannot pray, you have to perform ghusl. Thus, we can't immediately say that wudu and ghusl was only for cleanliness, because if it was for cleanliness, today we don't need it. Thus, are there benefits of ritual purification? Absolutely. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Number one, wudu and ghusl remind us that the same way that the body requires cleaning once in a while, the nafs also requires cleaning. The soul also requires cleaning. There's a relevance between the cleanliness of the body and the cleanliness of the spirit and the soul and the nafs. The same way that we wash our bodies, we have to wash our nafs and our spirits. But how? How do we wash this dirty nafs? That we make it dirty with our sins and with our spiritual crimes. How? By tawbah and istighfar. By asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. By repenting. And my dear friends, Allah loves those who repent. When you commit a sin, don't think that you've become distant from it. Yes, you've become distant. But Allah has given you the chance to come back. Because Allah says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ التَّوَّابِينَ. Allah loves those who repent. When you go back home tonight and you sit by yourself for a couple of minutes and you seek forgiveness, know that Allah loves you. Because the Quran says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ التَّوَّابِينَ. Allah loves it when a slave who's run away yet decides to come back to Him. Allah loves this. Wudu reminds us this. Reminds us of this. Ghusl reminds us of this. That the same way the body requires cleansing, the soul also requires cleansing. Number two, we also learn a lesson. You see, one of the things that are impure and najis is sperm. Sperm is impure, it's najis. Another thing that's impure and najis is a dead body. Correct? A dead body, it's najis. If you touch sperm, you have to wash your hand. If you touch a dead body, you have to wash your hand. This teaches us a lesson. What is sperm? What is sperm? It's our origin. Every human being, his origin is from sperm. And what is a dead body? It's our end. That means our beginning is najis and our end is najis, yet we dare to become arrogant. This is a lesson. This is a lesson for us. That our beginning and our end is najis. What reason do we have to feel proud and to feel arrogant and to feel that we're greater than others? Mawlana Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi afdalu salatu wassalam, he says, عجبت لابن آدم عجبت لابن آدم أوله نطفة وآخره جيفة وهو بين ذلك يحمل العذرة ثم يتكبر. He says, I'm shocked. Silly is the son of Adam. In the beginning, he's a najis sperm. In the end, he's a najis dead corpse. In between, he's carrying stool. We're all carrying stool with us. We're all carrying najasa. In the beginning, we're najis. In the end, we're najis. In between, we're carrying najasa with us. And then he feels proud. And then he's arrogant. Arrogant of what? Proud of what? Harun al-Rashid would speak to the clouds. Would speak to the clouds. يا غيوم شرقي أم غربي فلا تمطرين إلا على ملكي. He would tell the clouds, go east, go west, wherever you go, you will rain on my land. This Harun, the same Harun who would speak to the clouds in this sort of manner, one day he asked one of his advisors, he told him, give me a piece of advice. He told him, okay. It's as if Harun actually acted according to the advice. He told him, Ya Harun, if one day you go hunting with your army, as he usually would, and you got lost in the woods, and it's sunset, you've lost your army, you don't know where to go, you become thirsty. Someone comes with a cup of water and tells you, Ya Harun, I have a cup of water. You need this water to live. If you don't drink it, you will die. How much will you give him, Ya Harun, for this cup of water? Harun thinks for a moment. He said, I would give him half of my kingdom. Told him, okay. After you drink this water, you have to urinate. You wanted to urinate, you couldn't. All of a sudden, you developed an illness or problem, you can't urinate. Well, how long can you go on? A day, 2 days, you'll die. If you don't urinate, you'll die. Someone comes, you see someone in the middle of the woods that tells you, I have a cure. I have the cure, I can make you urinate. How much would you give him? He said, I'll give him the other half of my kingdom. He told him, Ya Harun, that means you would give your entire kingdom to urinate once. And then you speak to the clouds, go east, go west, and wherever you land, you will rain on my land? What is this arrogance, Ya Harun? Ritual purification teaches us this. Another lesson, another benefit of ritual purification. One of the conditions of wudu and ghusl is that the water has to be what? Pure, and it has to be mubah. What does that mean? That means that either we own it or we have the permission to use it. This is a lesson that all human beings, all you Muslims, don't violate people's property. You have to perform wudu 5 times a day. Make sure that the water that you use, you own it. The water at your home, you own it. Don't violate people's property. That means you can't stay at a person's house without his permission. You can't take people's homes. You can't take people's property and water. Even the government. Even the government. If you don't pay the water bill, there's something wrong with your wudu, according to some marajim. This is a lesson that don't violate people's property. Another lesson that we receive from ritual purification. When you begin wudu, it has to be for whom? It has to be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is all the ulama. They say when you perform wudu, you have to have niyyah that I perform wudu for Allah. You do this 5 times a day. That means 5 times a day you have to be in the habit of performing wudu for Allah. This teaches a lesson that everything should be for Allah. Everything should be for Allah. Our wudu, our salat. Even when you come to this masjid, to this majlis, the majlis of Abu Abdullah, my dear friends, when you leave the house, when you sit in the car, say, I go for the sake of Allah, with this intention. So that when you come, it becomes a ibadah for you, it becomes an act of worship. When you listen to a lecture for Imam Hossein, in the beginning, say, this is for Allah, it becomes a worship. All you have to do is sit, listen to a lecture, and angels are recording it as a ibadah, as a worship for you. When you do ma'tam, say qurbatan ila Allah. When you cry, say qurbatan ila Allah. Even when you eat the food, for the sake of Imam Hussein, this food, this blessed food in the kitchen that's served for the cause of Imam Hussein, do it for the sake of Allah. Qurbatan ila Allah, you'll be rewarded for this. We learn this from ritual purification. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Yes, as we said, one of the ghusls is for a dead body. When there's a dead body, we give it a ghusl. Ghusl massil mayyit. All dead bodies require a ghusl, except a shaheed. You know where I want to take you now. Except a shaheed that falls in the battleground does not require any ghusl. Imam Zain al-Abidin, when he wanted to bury his father and uncle and brothers and companions, he didn't need any water. Imam Hussein was buried without ghusl. Imam Hussein was buried without a kafan. How was Imam Hussein buried? We'll talk inshallah, we'll mention this story. Everyone needed ghusl. Everyone that dies needs a ghusl, except Imam Hussein did not need a ghusl because he was a martyr. He was a martyr. In Islam, a martyr does not require a ghusl. Neither did Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Al-Abbas died next to the river, and he was buried next to the river, yet he wasn't washed by the river because he didn't need a ghusl. The children come to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas calling al-Atash, al-Atash. Imagine we adults, when we're thirsty, what happens to us when we're thirsty? When we want a couple of drops of water? You know, imagine if there's children crying from thirst. Imagine if there's 3 or 4-year-old children crying from thirst, what happens to you? We can handle thirst, but if you have a small daughter or a son or an infant crying from thirst, what happens to you? Sukaina comes to her uncle Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Amma al-Atashu qad qatalani. My uncle, thirst is killing us. And Abbas was waiting for a signal from his brother to allow him to enter. Yet when his niece Sukaina came and asked for water, he couldn't say no. He came to his brother Abu al-Fadl, he came to his brother Abu Abdullah. Ya Abu Abdullah, allow me to go and bring some water to these children. Imam Hussein looked to his right, looked to his left. There was no other man standing other than Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. He told him, Akhi Abu al-Fadl, in madayt tafarraqa askari. My brother Abu al-Fadl, if you go, I don't have an army any longer. And Abu al-Fadl was the only man remaining. To the Imam, Abu al-Fadl was his army. He was the entire army. Akhi anta sahibu liwa'i, you carry my flag, my brother. If you go, who will carry my flag after you? And then the Imam tells him, Irkab binafsi anta ya akhi. Ride your horse, may your brother be a sacrifice for you, my brother. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas rides his horse. He enters into the Mashra'a. When the enemy soldiers, they saw Abu al-Fadl, they saw it's as if Ali ibn Abi Talib was in the middle of the battlefield. They remembered his father from Siffin. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas entered the water. the enemy soldiers, they dispersed at the sight of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Subhanallah. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas created such a catastrophe in the enemy army, and he only went to get water. He didn't go to fight. Imagine if he had went to fight, what would he have done? Abu al-Fadl reaches the water. He reaches the river. He grabs some water to drink. As he feels the coolness of the water, but then he remembers his brother Hussein is waiting for him. Could he possibly drink before his brother Hussein? Impossible. He drops the water and he says, Ya nafsu min ba'd al-Hussein huni wa ba'dahu la kunti an تكوني وتشربين بارد المعين تالله ما هذا فعال ديني ولا فعال صادق اليقين. أبا الفضل al-Abbas drops the water. He fills the water skin. He rides his horse. He's about to come back to the camp. All of a sudden, an arrow falls in his chest. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas grabs his sword. Grabs his sword. He's about to fight, and wicked enemy soldier hits him on his right hand, cutting his right hand off. He begins to recite, Wallahi in qata'tumu yamini. والله إن قطعتم يميني إني أحامي أبدا عن ديني وعن إمام صادق اليقين نجل النبي الطاهر الأمين. By God, if you cut my right hand, I will continue fighting, defending my Imam. A wicked soldier comes from behind him and he cuts off his left hand. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas had one goal, and that was to take back the water back to the camp. He grabs the water skin with his teeth. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas still had hope of coming back. As he's coming back, another arrow comes and hits the water skin. The water falls to the ground. Al-Abbas loses hope. He no longer wants to go back. All of a sudden, another arrow comes and falls in the eye of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. He feels the arrow go in his eye. If anything goes in our eye, immediately our hands rush to our eyes, but Abu al-Fadl had no hands. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas is trying to come back. Someone comes behind a tree and hits Abu al-Fadl on his head with a pole. Abu al-Fadl falls to the ground. He has no hands to fall on the ground. He falls on his face. For the first time in his life, he calls, Akhi Aba Abdullah, Adrik Akhak. My dear brother, come to your brother's rescue. Imam Hussein hears the voice of Abu al-Fadl. He comes down from his horse. He comes towards the Euphrates. The first thing he sees is the flag on the ground. And then he sees the right hand of Al-Abbas. He sees the left hand of Al-Abbas. He grabs the hands and he kisses the hands of Abu al-Fadl. He comes close to Al-Abbas, but what a sight! Al-Abbas is on the ground, an arrow in his eye. He can't see because there was blood on the other eye. He says, Ya hada billahi alayk amhilni hatta ya'ti akhi. By God, I swear on you, whoever it is, wait, don't finish me off. Let my brother come to me. Let me say my farewell. Imam Hussein says, my brother, you're breaking my heart. It is I, your brother. Imam Hussein sits next to him. Imam Hussein sits next to him. He grabs the head of Al-Abbas and he puts it in his lap. Al-Abbas moves his head. Again, the Imam grabs his head. He puts it in his lap. Al-Abbas moves. He says, why, ya akhi? Why do you move your head from my lap? He said, Akhi Aba Abdullah, now you're putting my head in your lap. But an hour from now, who will put your head in his lap? You will have no one, akhi. Al-Abbas passes away. Imam Hussein stands and he shouts, Al-an inkasara dhahri wa qallat hilati. My brother, now my back is broken. خويا انكسر ظهري ولا اقدر اقوم وصرت مركز يا خويا كل الهموم. Imam Hussein comes back to the camp. His daughter Sukaina comes to him. My dear father, is there any news of my uncle Abbas? Is there any news? Is he coming back with water? Imam Hussein didn't know what to say. The only thing you could do is go to the tent of Al-Abbas, hold the pole and drop it to the ground, meaning that the owner of this tent is no longer coming back. As you're seated, recite with me, brothers and sisters. Ey ahle haram mir alam darna yamad. Ey ahle haram mir alam darna yamad. Alam darna yamad. Alam darna yamad. Ey ahle haram mir alam darna yamad. Ey ahle haram علم دار نیامد علم دار نیامد ای اهل حرم ای اهل حرم میر و علم علم دار نیامد سقای حسین سید و سالار نیامد سقای حسین سید و سالار نیامد علم دار نیامد علم دار نیامد سقای حسین سید و سالار نیامد سقای حسین سید و سالار نیامد علم دار نیامد علم دار ای اهل حرم میر و علم دار نیامد ای اهل حرم میر و علم دار نیامد علم دار نیامد علم دار نیامد سقای حسین سید و سالار نیامد سقای حسین سید و سالار نیامد علم دار سقای حسین سید و سالار نیامد keep going سقای حسین سید و سالار ای اهل حرم میر و علم دار نیامد